This week's podcast is brought to you by Paris Chevrolet. Thank you guys so much for sponsoring this podcast. If you guys have any vehicle needs, go check them out. I've got a bunch of friends up there. They're good people. They'll treat you right. Go in there, ask for someone to help you, and they'll get you in a car that day. Paris Chevrolet, thank you guys so much. Let's get this thing started. Welcome to another Paris, Texas, a podcast. This is a podcast where you get to listen to people's stories, people that have either influenced or lived in the city of Paris, Texas. I love hearing their stories, and I can't wait for you to hear the next guest. All right, guys, this week's guest is someone that I've known for a while, but I don't know him well. So I'm very excited about this podcast to get to know him better, and let's hear his story. So, Chris Gunn, what's up?
What's up? How's it going?
Tell everybody just a really brief synopsis where they might know you from.
Well, I've probably either DJ'd your wedding, or you've probably heard me on radio, or of course, you know, my main business is in the car business, but I do a lot of different stuff, so it's just whatever I can get my hands in to either help or make a dollar, I guess.
All right, bud. So tell me, where were you born? Were you born here?
I was born in Dallas, Texas. My mom, her name's Gayla Vickers. She we were raised in the Dallas area, kind of, sort of. My dad kind of left when we were 2 years old. My mom's a single mom for the most part, and you know, raised us with some integrity and just to love people. She's an amazing person, and so. But Dallas, Texas, where I was raised. We moved to Reno, Nevada when I was younger kid.
Really, Reno,
Nevada.
What age was that?
I was 12 and 13.
12 and 13.
We moved out there. So my mom was married to a guy named Larry, and we moved out there. And he had a job with a company called Master Halco. Took us out there. We lived in Sparks, which is right outside of Reno.
Okay.
Reno and Sparks is kind of like Reno and Paris.
Okay.
Right next to each other. My mom went to work every day, which was the casino, but it wasn't working at the casino. She gambled every day.
That kind of work.
She liked to gamble back then, and my dad would work, or my stepdad would work, and we stayed out there for about 3 years, and then moved to Clarksville, Texas, when I was 14.
Was there something there? What drew you to Clarksville?
He worked there. My ex-stepdad worked there.
Okay.
He worked there he was a mechanic for a company called Master Halco, which is they make chain link fences and things like that.
Awesome.
So it took us out there, and it was a neat experience, to move away from Texas and see what someplace else is like, and I raced BMX bikes out there. I mean, I did all kinds. In Reno, yeah. Matter of fact, when I was 12 years old, I qualified for the Silver Dollar Nationals.
Wow.
And so I used to race a Robinson GT.
Was it hard coming?
I know it's kind of hard looking at me like this and thinking, hey, he used to race bikes?
I did an Ironman once in my life. You can't look at me right now and be like, that guy did an Ironman.
Listen, I'm one of them guys that if I'm running, you better be running too, because somebody's chasing me. That's the kind of guy that I am. So...
okay, was it hard coming back from a bigger city, Reno or Sparks, right?
It was Sparks, yeah, but which it's all the same.
Same, it's all still bigger city.
Very large city, I mean.
To Clarksville.
Oh, let me tell you, shell shock. Not only did I go to Clarksville, but I went to Avery for my junior high. So I went to 7th and 8th grade in Avery. And Avery's class clown, class favorite, all that stuff, and. So I moved back to Clarksville my freshman year. I figured I wanted to go to a little bit bigger high school. I wanted to play football. Avery didn't have football. So I went to Clarksville my freshman year. Started out there. Went freshman and sophomore year there.
Okay.
And then, for some reason in my life, I just decided that the drama and the school was not what school was supposed to be for me. And I was ready to be done with school.
Yeah.
So I went to this little bitty old... It's Dimple Christian Academy. It's right outside of Clarksville. I'm talking, I was the valedictorian. I was the salutatorian. I was the class president. I was everything because I was the only one in my class. There was other high schoolers in there. But matter of fact, the lady, it's kind of ironic. I just turned 40 this week. And the lady that made my birthday cake this week was my teacher out there.
Really?
Yeah, her name's Sheila. It was Sheila Lee then. And Niecy Harrington, they were both my teachers out there. They kind of guided me and helped me get done with high school. I finished high school when I was in between my 17, 18 year. And,
yeah.
But what I did to pay for that, my mom would tell me, she said, hey, look, if you want to quit public school, if you want to do this, she said, you're going to pay for it. And it's one of the things that I really appreciate to this day. So I would go to school from 8 in the morning till noon or 1. And then I would drive to Paris, and I worked in the shoe department at Bell's.
Yep.
And I would work at Bell's from 1 o'clock till about 6 o'clock.
What was this year?
This was in 98, 99, okay. 98. So
okay.
I worked at Bell's in the shoe department, and then I would get off there and I would go to Domino's Pizza, and I worked at Domino's Pizza from 6 to midnight, which Domino's was my first real big major job. I worked at Domino's until I was 22 years old. From the time I was 17 until I was 22. But back up just a second. Remember Reno and Sparks?
Yep.
One of my first jobs ever, I went into a Domino's Pizza, and they were paying me a penny a flyer to door hang. To go door to door and just hang flyers. And I had a bicycle.
This was 14, 15?
I was 12 or 13 years old.
12 or 13?
Yeah, somewhere right around in there.
And you're already making money.
Trying to. They put me on the street corner with one of the signs. When you're 12, 13 years old, you didn't care what you look like on the street corner. If you're wearing a pizza suit or whatever, you're out there making some money. That's actually how I bought my first bicycle, my Robinson GT, in order for me to race. But, so back up to Clarksville, me coming over here. So I worked at Bell's during the day from noon to 6, and then I would go slap pizzas and work on the make line at Domino's Pizza for Mac McConan. I'm sure, I don't know if anybody knows. You probably don't know Mac McConan, but Mac's the guy that started the Domino's Pizza here. Phenomenal person. He was great for Paris. He's since moved to Rockwall, and he has like 20 stores or something like that now.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Now, okay, so were you still doing football, or was that during this pizza time?
Well, so what I did is my freshman and sophomore year, I played football.
Okay.
But when I quit public school, I gave up football.
And went all in on working.
All in on just trying to make a life.
Yeah.
My deal was I watched my mom struggle so much in life, and I watched her, work 2 or 3 jobs, and I've never wanted that. I never wanted to have to struggle, which everybody has to struggle, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But just watching her alone, and still to this day watching her, it teaches me, so much. And that's what she wanted me to work, and I paid for my own school. My junior and senior year, I paid for it with Domino's Pizza money and Bell's money.
So was there a dream at that time, like, I want to be this?
To be honest with you, I wanted to do radio. That was what I really wanted to do. I'd always liked radio. When I first moved to Clarksville, one of the other they would let me come in and do board ops for high school football games and things like that.
Did you have someone you looked up to that was doing that already?
I really did. It was just something always that intrigued me. I loved being on a microphone. I loved being able to be in front of people or talk about people, and I like that attention. Obviously. Mm-hmm. But it was just a little. At the time, I thought it was a neat thing. I had a friend of mine. His name was Jonathan Lynch. He worked at the radio station. He'd say, "Hey, come and hang out," and. So I kind of started helping him. Then he'd say, "Hey, I can't board up tonight. You know how to do it. You want to board up?" And so it just kind of started there and then progressed. And then when I moved, finally after I was out of high school, I was barely 18 years old. Crazy story. I wanted to be out of the house. I wanted to start my life. I moved to Paris, Texas, and I stayed in the King's Inn Motel.
Okay.
For 3 weeks.
Okay.
With a buddy of mine. Until we found a place. What an experience.
Living out of a motel.
I learned a lot in the King's Inn Motel that I probably should have never learned. But finally, we got a house. And, I started working at, I was still working at Domino's Pizza. Let me back up. I was still working at Domino's Pizza. And in that time, I had met my wife, girlfriend then, but wife now. Eventually. Not now.
Okay.
No, previous.
Jumping ahead.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. So, anyway, So we met, and we moved to Tyler, Texas.
Okay.
And I worked for Mac, and I was a district manager. I was one of the youngest district managers for Domino's Pizza at 20 years old. And so 20 and 21 years old, right in there. And I had 7 stores that I operated. I had Henderson and Longview, Tyler. There was 3 stores in Tyler, and I just traveled around and
were you still doing
gave me an opportunity.
Were you still doing your radio side hustle?
I was not. Well, I put that on hold for a little bit, and then I come back and I started working at K95.5. So I did Crying, Loving, or Leaving with K95.5 with Bubba Gunn. I don't know if anybody remembers that, but
that was your handle.
That was my handle, Bubba Gunn. Matter of fact, people still call me Bubba to this day, and I can't shake it. I mean, I lost 50 pounds since February, and they still call me Bubba. So it's not like it's a big thing or anything. Yeah. But so in that show there, I worked for Will Payne over at what is it now? Payne Radio now.
Yeah.
And long story short, I worked there, and kind of my tenure kind of died down, and I wanted to do something different, and so I moved over here to Paris and started working at East Texas Broadcasting.
But you were all in on radio at this point.
I wanted to do radio until I found out what radio pays.
But how many years did you do radio? Because you hopped around a little bit.
I did. I did radio probably a good 4 years. I mean, off and on.
Different places.
Yeah, different places. Yeah, and I sold advertising, and I sold. I did this and that, and but it was one of those things where in your mind you think, well, I can have me a really cool morning show in like Dallas market. I keep this going. My fan base was great. On K95.5, I had. There was over 150 calls coming in a night. I mean, it was crazy just for requests and things like that. So people were listening.
Yeah.
But I was young, and I
How old were you at this time?
I was 21, right at 21. Okay. I was barely old enough to drink because I remember my last night at 95.5. I worked for a guy. Well, I worked for Will over there, and East Texas Broadcasting, this is a crazy story a lot of people don't know about, but East Texas Broadcasting had invited us, in good kind, we were competitors, but they invited us, me and Tiffany Tucker, she'll probably kill me for mentioning her name, but they invited us they had Sting's tour bus, and they said, hey, we're going to take some listeners to Dallas, and we're going to take them to a few bars and take them, have a good time with some listeners, and we got plenty of room, and we just like to extend a good,
good faith invite.
Good faith invite. And we went.
Yeah, let's go.
Wasn't the greatest thing to do.
Oh man.
So, long story short, the next morning they said, "Hey, I moved on the next morning. We'll just say that.
Okay.
So no hard feelings, no nothing, but it was it opened up a great door for me. That trip opened up a great door for me to work for East Texas Broadcasting. I did an afternoon show on on 101.9.
Yeah.
The Rock Station.
Rock Station.
Yeah, it was kind of funny because like I would go from K95.5 with one voice, and I would go to 101.9 with another voice, and so at K95.5 it was today's hot new country K95.5. It's Crying, Loving, or Leaving. But when you get over to a rock station, you got to have a little more. So it was, hey, it's the afternoon traffic jam with Crazy Chris Gunn, and
my goodness.
So you're having to do these.
Did you ever mix them up?
No, not really. I was pretty decent at it. I mean,
wow.
I'm telling you, when I turn a microphone on, I don't know what it is. Maybe not this microphone. It's so big and nice and pretty here in front of me, but I don't know. It was just like, hey, I think I need to change my voice from this, today's hot new country, and to my. And people love that voice, and I can do that in a party crowd. It's a great party trick or whatever. Right. And they're like, talk in your radio voice. I'm like, it's not. There's nothing to me. I mean, it's just how I talk. But
that's fun.
Yeah, it was. I enjoyed it. I did the afternoon traffic jam with Crazy Chris Gunn on 101.9 KBUS. So I did it with Dave Johnson. I worked with Dave Johnson. I worked with Super Dave Logan. That was back in the prime time of 101.9. I mean, K-Bus had a really prime time at that time. They were doing tons of stuff in town, and it was just a great time for that radio station.
Yeah.
I mean, we'd go in the middle of the night and flip on the switch and act like we were doing like traffic reports and stuff like that. We just loved radio at that time.
Yeah.
And so, but I sold advertising there. And, this whole time, I mean, I was just trying to do what I thought I wanted to do for the rest of my life.
So 4 years, it's coming to an end. What drew you out of it?
We had a baby, to be honest with you.
Okay.
Olivia was born in 2005. And so right around, it was 2005, but we found out, at the middle of 2004 that we were pregnant. And so it was one of those things where I just kind of realized that I needed insurance and I needed, something different. And somebody said, you should go sell cars for Glenn Baucom.
Have you ever sold cars before?
Never have I sold cars before. So I said, man, I don't want to sell cars. I don't really want to sell cars,
Yeah.
That stigma of car dealerships and car people, and I just don't want to sell cars. Well, I'll never forget.
Which is not a bad thing.
No,
Chevrolet.
it's not a bad thing at all. No. This was the stigma then.
Yeah.
Trust me, the guys at Paris Chevrolet know that I love them. Clayton and those guys, they're some of my great friends. And,
yeah.
I tell them all the time they're one of my favorite dealerships to go into because just the banter and the great relationships that you have.
I
with
do
them.
love hanging. I've
They're
gone
great
in
people,
there.
aren't they?
There's some good people there.
Yeah, you go and you hang out with Kelly and Clayton and
Bert was on here.
There's also Bert.
Yeah, he was on here not too long ago. He's a great character.
Oh, let me tell you, if you show up somewhere and Bert's there,
you're gonna laugh.
You're gonna either laugh or you're gonna be like, he is full of it, which is you'll probably do both, but it is what it is. So, so long story. I mean, I was at that time. It was kind of crazy. We found out we're pregnant and this and that with Olivia, and my mom was going through some stuff. She had thyroid cancer, and she was down at MD Anderson every week getting treatments in Houston. And I had applied. They had just said, "Hey, let me back up. I worked for Jewel Mart for a year and a half while
still at the radio?
Yeah, I still did everything. And I worked at Crosswire at night. I've always had 2 or 3 jobs.
I was fixing to ask you, so are you the type of person?
I cannot have one job.
I'm that person.
I cannot have one job.
I stopped counting at 50 years ago. Yes. I've had so many jobs in my lifetime.
I'm the same exact way. And here's my deal, Broadway. I don't want to wake up one day and go, dang, I wished I'd have done that, man.
Well, and it wasn't ever that I quit job and went to another job. It's always been I've had 2 or 3 jobs.
It's just interest. My interests change.
Yeah.
So what happened? The reason I went to
Jewel Mart?
Paris Chevrolet. I'm sorry, Toyota.
Toyota.
Yeah, Toyota of Paris was. I worked at Jewel Mart. So
you'd gotten experience selling stuff.
I was selling jewelry, and I was doing his finance stuff and things like that.
So did you gave it a try to go into the
Yeah, I enjoyed the jewelry business, but Doug Jackson there, he just kept telling me, there's more for you. There's something more for you. He's a big Toyota guy, and him and Glenn were great friends, and Glenn and Matt would come in and buy jewelry and stuff like that. And so that's how I met Glenn and Matt. And, Matt and Glenn both said, hey, I don't have anything available. We haven't hired a salesman in a long time. He said, but you're welcome to put in an application. So I did. And I waited 6 months, and I would call every month. And I'd say, hey, you got anything? Because I needed that insurance. And I needed that insurance. I was trying to get it before Olivia was born. And July the 5th of 2005, I got a phone call. And I was down at MD Anderson with my mom. And Glenn says, hey, I'd love to give you an opportunity. And, and I told him, I said, I'll be there next week.
Boom.
So I worked for Glenn and Matt for almost 8 years, right at 8 years.
Did you find it hard selling cars versus the other stuff you've done?
Not for the Baucoms.
No?
No. At that point in time, they just ran such a great dealership that and Mr. Baucom used to tell you, he would tell you, a monkey with a pen at Toyota of Paris could sell cars. And that's really, it was true. They just took such great care of their customers. When you have 70 or 80% repeat and referral business, just from taking care of people, it meant a lot to the community. It means a lot to the community. And I was proud to work for them. Matter of fact, 5 years after I was hired on, I was still the last salesman hired at Toyota of Paris for the Baucoms. I learned a lot working for Jerry Baucom. Just how to take care of people, how to treat people. I can't tell you enough of what that family has done for my life and
awesome.
and me. And the one thing that I was always told that stuck in my mind and that I live with to this day is Glenn Baucom sat me down one day and he just said, "You won't work for me forever." And I wasn't quite sure how to take that at first. I'm like, well, what are you telling me? You
kicking me out the
am I
door?
on the bubble? Or
Yeah.
'cause that's what Mr. Baucom used to tell me all the time. You're on the bubble. So Mr. Baucom, he was tough on me, and I appreciate it to this day, him being tough on me. But he just told me, Glenn just told me, one day you're going to do a lot different stuff. You're going to do better stuff than just working for this dealership. And he said, I'm going to support you in any way I can.
Yeah.
And so he pushed me. He pushed me hard, and when the Baucoms left, and I decided to move on down the road, and all in this process, I was still managing Crosswire, still doing, different
always
DJ
2-3
stuff,
jobs.
always doing radio, always doing something, either recording somebody's commercials, or I used to do those old in Sulphur Springs, they had Gober Merrill auto sales.
Mm-hmm.
They used to. And even after I quit radio, they would call me and ask me to do those Gober Merrill commercials. And it was, Joe Mack said sell it. We've got 15 cars at under blah, blah, blah. Joe Mack said sell it. And so they had me doing all those commercials for a long time. And but, I just liked the aspect of radio. But I realized once I got older that it just, for me as a jock or running, that's not where I wanted to be, in financially. I didn't want to be that way. And I'm not saying I'm much better off now, but I sure have a lot more time to try to do stuff.
There you
now.
go.
So, it was a great experience. That whole process, I was working for Crosswire on the weekends, Thursday, Friday, and Saturdays. I DJ'd at Crosswire when it was in its prime, 600-700 people on Thursday nights, college kids. Till the college said that they couldn't go anymore, cut out all athletes and things like that from going to the bar, which is whatever. But that's also where I met Trey. So, I manage.
Comes back around. Yeah.
Everything comes back around. So I managed Trey Rose. He was on The Voice this year, of course. But so he was 17 years old, and he pops his head in, and his dad was there, and. Here I was a cocky bar manager, people would come in all the time and say, hey, can you listen to me play? Or can you,
That happens all the time?
It happens a lot in the bar business.
Really?
A lot. People come in and say, look, give me a chance, give me a shot. So he come in and with his dad just said, hey, Harry told us to stop by here and let you listen to him, see if you can use him anywhere. And so me being the cocky bar manager that I was in my office, and it was like in here, and then him sitting outside, and I just said, hey, sit right outside here. I'm counting money in here and play for me. And little did I know at the time, but his dad was furious at that. His dad was so mad that I didn't go out there and just stand there and listen to him, stop what I was doing. Anyway, under his breath, cussed me a little bit and get that out of his office, make him come out of his office. And about a verse and a chorus in, I come out of my office. And so I just asked him, I said, what are you doing next week? And I had Brantley Gilbert booked here at Crosswire, and I said, you want to open for Brantley Gilbert? And then the rest is history. I just kind of took him under my wing as like my little brother, and we've been trucking ever since.
Awesome.
But, in a nutshell, that's kind of where I'm at now. I'm still with him in this whole process. I've like I said, I worked for Toyota, and I worked for a local auto auction, and it's been a wild ride. And now to this day, I do 60 to 70 weddings a year. DJing too.
And I've been to, and that's where we've kind of met a plethora of times, is because I do wedding videos every now and again. Right. And you've been at a couple of the weddings that I've shot, and you do a great job.
I appreciate it. It's something that I'm pretty proudful of. I wasn't doing much with it a few years ago, and I was just letting gigs come in, as they were, and just taking the extra dollars, not really pushing myself. And my best friend, Chad Johnston, Chad, and Chad's just another great guy. That's one thing that I've tried to make myself concentrate on the older I get, is surround yourself with just great people. People that, if you don't add to my life, if there's not something that you put into my life and I can put into your life, then I move on.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just tired of. I want people that, and I said this all weekend. My birthday weekend was last week, and they got tired of hearing me say this because I had a great group of friends, and one of my biggest deal is I want quarters around me.
Yeah.
I don't want dimes. I mean, I want more quarters and $50. I want the people with substance that add substance to your life, that you can bounce ideas off of, and them not judge you for certain things.
So I had a friend once that said, "Show me your friends, and I'll show you your future." And I've always loved that saying because to me, what he's saying is like the people you put around you on a consistent basis are the people that are going to influence you, and that be positive, that be negative, regardless. That's show me your friends, and I'll show you your future.
You're exactly right. I mean, if you're surrounding yourself with people that constantly put you down and constantly beat you up and browbeat you or hold their thumb over you or try to control you, look. I've learned, and I'm going to keep this part private, but I've learned that in this last year that that you got the faster you get those people out of your life, the faster your life will change. I mean, in my life, this last year has been the best year of my life. Period.
And it's a hard Band-Aid to pull because I've been in a position in life where I needed to get the friends that were the current group of people that were around me out of my life, and it's not something you can just drop and walk away from.
Listen, it was the toughest. Like I said this, it was the toughest year of my life, and I lost friends this year, 25-year friends that I'll always love. And that it's just that at this point in my life, they just don't fit in my life.
Well,
and
it just
maybe in a few years from now, when everything changes, that's perfectly fine. But it's one of those things that I really struggled with this year. I mean, it's the stress that's been on me this year.
Yeah.
It's, when you change everything, your whole dynamics of how your family operates and who your family operates with, and you change that in a moment's notice, it's tough.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is.
Well, and okay, here's how it starts. You find that one person that influences you in a positive way, that encourages you, that shows up at your front door and helps you in that time of need, and then you put yourself in around that person more often. I mean, not in a weird way, but you just
looking through his windows.
Yeah, you just put yourself around that person as much as possible, and then you find another, and then you find another, and you build that tribe of people that are going to always uplift you in whatever you do, and they're going to support you in big decisions that you have to make. And it is a hard thing to find, but I think it's, once you do find it, you start making better decisions in life, and your kids start being around people like that, and it's a win.
And let me back up. The people that I was around were not bad people at all. It's just certain situations.
They weren't drug lords.
No. They're great people. It's just that in our lives at that time and at this time right now,
you need positive encouragers.
I need somebody that's going to say, "Hey, you got this."
Right?
Chad Johnson's that guy for me. Chad's my best friend. Been my best friend for 20 years, and Chad, but you don't know that Chad calls me every day at 4:00 every day. Do you know who else calls their best friend every day at 11:30? Warren Buffett calls Bill Gates every day at 11:30.
Wow.
Watch Bill's Mind.
Yeah, I saw that commercial and I haven't watched it yet.
Phenomenal. And Chad pushes me to, hey, sometimes, if it's the right thing to do, you do it. Mm-hmm. Chad's not out in the middle of everybody. He's a part of all kinds of boards and everything else, but he's not a real social bug, and he's just kind of my behind the scenes. Hey, you got this today, I've got another friend that owns a Bendigo's up in Broken Bow. His name's Chad Sargent. He's the last 5 years he's taken me on as like a business mentor, and he's really truly helped me, and I've helped him, and I've done some consulting for a Bendigo's up there, and he's pushed me to be either a better person or what. I mean, I've got some of the best people surrounding me right now is what I'm trying to say. That I took 12 people. 12 of us went to and stayed in a cabin this weekend for my birthday in Broken Bow, and they were tired of hearing it. I told you earlier, I want my quarters. I want my quarters. And so you'll see on a couple of my posts, I said my quarters, haha, because they all are like, all right, we know we're your quarters, you know, at the end of the day. But I want them to know, you know, I want these people that are a part of my life to know what they mean in my life.
Yeah.
You know, there's tons of other people outside of my life that you can feel like, hey, I want to be a part of that group, or hey, I want to be his friend. And I get that. I understand that. And there's no offense to people that I would love to be everybody's friend.
Right.
But at this point in my life, I've told myself, you've got to surround yourself with quarters, not these dimes.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at right now mentally, and you know, Chad was a big part of that, helping me get this DJ business rolling. And it wasn't even helping me; it was just more along the lines of challenging me.
Yeah.
I told you earlier, I posted a $30 Facebook ad when he said that. He said, "You got to start pushing it. You got to start pushing your DJ stuff, getting it out there." I did a $30 Facebook ad, and I booked 17 weddings off of that $30 Facebook ad.
Awesome.
And I was just floored. So 16, I revamped all my stuff, bought all new equipment and everything, and I have not looked back. I've done 60, 70 weddings every year for the last 3 years.
I must say my favorite part of your whole setup is I have to sneak behind your whole setup sometimes.
My fans.
Your fans, man.
Listen, I got bridesmaids that will come in, and I'll tell them before the wedding, hey, if you get hot, there's fans. And then some people walk back there with dresses on or whatever and don't realize those fans. And I'll just have, hey, hold your dress if you're going to walk back here. Because I keep it pretty cool back there, you know. And them August weddings where it's 105 degrees outside.
Brutal.
I promise you. And one of the things that changed my business and my DJ business is simple. Silly simple. Put a coat on.
Yep.
I mean, you would not believe going from a untucked, nice button-down shirt, sleeves rolled. You will not believe the reaction that you get after you set up in your shorts, t-shirt, and you're sweaty, and people think these weddings are going, oh, is he going to wear that for the wedding? And then when you show up and you walk in with a nice sport coat on or whatever and fixed up, it has literally changed that is one of the main things. If somebody asked me what was one of the things that I changed about my business that made a difference, and it's simple, and it's stupid simple. It's a sport coat.
That's crazy.
A bow tie for you.
I do it, yeah.
You know, it's the same along the same lines. Something that people identify you with. They know that when I show up to their wedding, it's going to be classy. It's going to be upscale. It's going to be. I'm going to have one of the nicest systems, most elegant systems out there, and that's what Chad Johnston challenged me to do.
Yeah,
you got this, and I ain't looked back. I haven't looked back. But it's been crazy. It's been a crazy few years.
And that's what we've said this a few times on this podcast, but I encourage people, man, if you have a dream or an idea of something you want to do, you got this.
Yeah.
Go out there and do it. You know, surround yourself with positive people to help you push you that extra mile and go do it. You got this.
And I appreciate it. It's a fun life I live. There's a lot of people that are like, man, you get to do all the fun stuff. I do. You get to do the fun stuff, but there's a lot of headache that goes into that fun stuff too.
Well,
there's a lot of travel that I do. There's a lot of away from my family that I do. You know, if I'm, on the road with Trey, or I don't go on the road with Trey a whole lot because I try to stay home as much as I can, just because I want to be at home with my family. And I've got an awesome 5-year-old little boy. His name is Gage. Last name's Gunn, so it's spelled Gauge. So that way when he plays baseball, it'll be number 12 Gage Gunn. So yeah, that was my wife's doing. She did that. Blame her. My daughter's name's Olivia Mae Gunn, so her initials are OMG, and that's what we call her, is OMG.
That's fun.
So, but I have a beautiful 5-year-old, smart 5-year-old little boy that, and he pushes me.
Yeah.
You know. There's not many people out there that push me like he pushes me. He changed my life. He pulled me. The day I found out that we were pregnant with him, my life changed just because I was doing some stupid stuff, in my life, and I just shouldn't have been doing it. And like I told you earlier, you look in the mirror one day and you just have to say, "What are you doing with your life? Let's wake up. You got a kid on the way, another kid on the way. Let's go.
Let's do it."
And so that's what he's 5 years old now. He's a super, super smart, hilariously funny. my wife has him sometimes, and I won't be with him, and he'll walk by and be like, "That's Chris Gunn's kid." Like, I marked him well, and so I'm proud of the kid so far.
That's
so
awesome.
Far. We'll see.
Yeah,
he's a good kid.
Well, man, thank you for being on my podcast.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me. It's fun.
It was fun.
I
didn't know any of that.
Yeah, I know I ramble on sometimes, but it's one of those things where I don't put things into chronological timeline order a lot of times, and so I bounce around. But that's just the squirrel in me, the 80.
Yeah,
you know.
Well, and no one practices this. We were
Sure.
talking about this before the podcast. Like, you seldom see people sit down and tell their story from the start to the end.
Yeah.
You just don't. Like, it's just, and this is such a neat way of doing it, I feel
I think it's a great idea that you have. I've listened to a couple of them that you've done, and of course I listened to Katie's, and you know, Katie's whole story is I'm part of it too. And
you are in there.
The reason she's here, you know, those things like that I don't mention. There's hundreds of people like Katie.
Yeah.
We were talking about it this week, and another friend of mine, Alicia Roberts, she's like, Chris gave me a chance when I was working at the bar, you know, and from there I was able to make money to help me pay for college or whatever it might be. And Katie's like, well, he let me move in his house. You know, I have tons of those stories, and I won't go into all of those because I don't want all of them. It's not what I do it for. You know, I don't try to help people to tell people I help people.
Yeah.
You know, I'm one of those guys that I'm gonna try to buy you lunch if you're standing in the line behind me.
It comes down to you being the person you want in your life.
Sure, absolutely, 100%.
So, like, you're looking for those quarters, but you need to also be that quarter.
Absolutely.
Like, you can't be a dime and expect everyone in your life to be a quarter.
You're only as good as the people that you surround yourself with.
Exactly.
And you're right. And you know, there's that old saying too: is if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. Or if you're you've got to find those like-minded people to get yourself around.
Yep.
That don't mind sitting around a fire at night and talking, whether it be business or family or whatever topic you want to come up with. They can add substance to those topics.
Totally.
And like I said, I just turned 40 this year, and so it's really been bugging me this last couple of weeks.
Turning 40?
Yeah. I'm out of my 30s now, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
I didn't feel any different on my last day of my 39th birthday and the first day of my 40th birthday. So
it's just a number.
Yeah, that's all it is.
Yeah,
that's it. But you know, that's my philosophy in life right now. Surround yourself with great people, and the rest of the people that have been a part of your life that aren't so great, just quit worrying about them.
Yeah,
and put them in the back of your mind, and God and karma.
There you go. Well, again, thank you so much for being on here. What an epic podcast.
I appreciate it, man. I enjoyed it very much.
Awesome.
I wish you luck and keep spreading this thing.
Yes.
Paris, Texas needs it.
Yep. And with that, guys, every Monday we put out a new podcast, so check in next Monday for a new guest. I love having these guests. I love hearing these stories. Such amazing stories. I also want to throw one more big shout out to Paris Chevrolet. Thank you guys so much for sponsoring this podcast and for just being awesome. You guys are so much fun to be around. I literally was at a ribbon cutting yesterday with some of you guys and had fun with you. So thanks for sponsoring me. Thanks for being a part of this. And guys, we'll see you next week.